pray. First and foremost is all honor, praises, and glory unto the Father who is the highest. Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawah Shai. That's praises to the Father in the name of his only begotten Son, who the world refers to as Jesus the Christ. I want to give a shout out to all the elders of Yahawah. Thank you for your years of steadfast service. Big shalom to all the frontliners who battle these spirits to their face on the highways and byways, by which I say I am less than the least. This particular lesson will be on the parables of the kingdom, marked by a parable that was left by who the world refers to as Jesus the Christ, the parable of the wheat and tares. Mind you, this will be like nothing you've ever heard before unless you've been into the knowledge of the truth. This won't be like a lesson you would normally get from your Sunday school pastor who reads the book and waxes poetic or tries to give his own spin in order to get a reaction with no precepts, no biblical context. So I urge you to listen, and maybe you will be able to pray to the Most High, the Father, to unlock the hidden wisdom as it pertains to the elect. So listen closely, Israel. The kingdom of heaven is not a casual claim, nor is it something that will come without a cost. It demands transformation, that complete turning from the world and its ways. It's a life-altering shift that will make those around you uncomfortable, even hostile. It will cause division because the change within you will be so profound that those who still cling to the leaven of this world won't recognize you anymore. When you come into the truth, it's not just about believing. It's about doing the will of the Father, the highest, about walking a path so narrow that the world will hate you for it. Christ knew this better than anyone. He spent his entire life knowing he would be killed for this message. He died for this. And when we say we follow him, we're saying that we're willing to live the same way, with the same boldness, with the same conviction, and yes, if need be, with the same sacrifice. To truly love the Father is to delight in his will. That's Psalms chapter 40, verse 7. His commandments are not grievous to those who have his love within them. If you claim to follow him, but continue to indulge in pagan customs and celebrate the idols he has rejected and bring unclean things into what's supposed to be holy, you have to ask yourself, are you truly his? Are you truly transformed? Or are you still holding on to the leaven of this world, its corruptions, its celebrations, and its false teachings? It's time to purge that leaven, Israelites. It's time to stop living as though you're still a part of this corrupt system, showing up to church on Sundays, lifting hands, but still worshiping in the same places where idols are revered and pagan celebrations are held. The kingdom is within you. But if you're not ready to make the hard decisions, the life-altering changes, then what do you think you're really inheriting? This is the call. This is the high price of discipleship. Hamashiach Yahawah Shai, who the world calls Jesus the Christ, made it clear, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And if you are truly ready to step into the kingdom, then it's time to prove that love with action. Let the word of Yahawah shake the very foundation of what you think you know and prepare yourself for the transformation that will change everything. So, when we read Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 and 25, and it reads, "Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. Good seed. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way." Now I'm going to pause right there just for a second. And notice it said, but while men slept, the enemy came. This parable taught by Yahawah isn't your typical Sunday sermon feel-good message. This is about an infiltration, a spiritual warfare, and a divine separation to come. This parable should shake you to your core. It's not poetic, it's prophetic. It's not soft, it's severe. And it's not distant, it's now. This is a final hour warning from Yahawah himself, Jesus Christ. And he wasn't speaking in riddles for entertainment. He was issuing a coded declaration of judgment, decoded only by those with ears to hear. So you have to put your nose back down and stop being so proud and be willing to listen. Here is the warning. Not only is there separation of wheat and tares, but many tares think they're wheat. This has nothing to do with the multi-ethnic Christian church being the wheat, regardless of their social media declarations in Jesus' name. The pride one must have to include themselves in the number. In this world, the field, both the righteous and the wicked grow side by side. They look alike. They sound alike. Some may even teach alike. But make no mistake about it. One is planted by Yahawah, our power, and the other by the enemy. And here's the terrifying part. You might be a tare and not even know it. This is why Yahawah said, let them both grow together until the harvest, because the distinction isn't clear to men, but the reapers know. And when the harvest comes, they don't miss. They've never missed, as the Lord the highest created them for this purpose. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 39, verse 28 through 31. And it reads, there be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire and hell and famine and death, all these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and the sword punishing the wicked to destruction. They shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon the earth when need is. And when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word. The death angels were created specifically to appease the wrath of him that created them. This parable isn't meant to entertain. It is meant to terrify you into repentance. It's meant to awaken the wheat and warn the tares, because the time is almost up. And if you truly love the Father, it's time to live like it. This message, this parable, is a firebrand straight from the lips of who you call Jesus Christ. The same Yahawah who knew he'd be killed for speaking the truth. So if you truly seek the kingdom, then open your ears, because the reapers are coming. This is Matthew 13, verses 24 through 30. This is the first part of the wheat and tares parable. Starting again in 24, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then has it tares? So the servants are asking the householder, didn't you put good seed out here in this field? So why are tares showing up while we reap up this good fruit? And he said unto them, an enemy has done this. The servant said unto him, will thou then that we go and gather them up? Should we go ahead and just gather it all up, is what they're saying. But he said, nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let them both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. All right, let's break this down. The parable with hidden implications of the enemy's seed line. This is Matthew chapter 13, and I'm going to pick it up at verse 37 and 38. He answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are children of the wicked one. He didn't say anything about spirits. He didn't say anything about anything other than children. That's people. Now pay attention. Yahawah, who the world refers to as Jesus the Christ, was not speaking in flowery metaphors for entertainment. This was a coded warning. A parable to unlock spiritual reality. Only those with ears to hear are going to feel this. He said the field is the world, not your Sunday service, not your little group chat. He's talking about Israelites around the entire globe where they're prophesied to be. This system, this earth, that is the field. Two seeds are growing side by side. One, the wheat, planted by the Son of Man himself, chosen, sanctified, the children of the kingdom. Not just believers, but those who the Father drew to the Son. John chapter 6, verse 44. Those preordained to bear fruit. So this is the book of Ephesians chapter 1, verses 4 and 5, just to add. According as he had chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Jesus Christ to himself. Those whose spirits were known before time began, not made righteous by accident, but by appointment. But then he says something that should shake you to your core. The tares are the children of the wicked one. Now let's make this plain, because this ain't poetic, it's genetic. We're talking seed lines, ladies and gentlemen. Bloodlines, descendants, children, not just by belief but by birth. The wheat and tares aren't just good and bad people. They're offsprings of two different fathers. Now, this is around the time where we're cueing the Christian commentary. Well, the good seed are just believers in Jesus, and the tares are just non-believers or wolves among the flock. You're so deep. Woo, that was just staggering. The reason why most will never understand the biblical text is because you seek understanding from Christian commentary or just make it up. We seek the understanding in the Spirit through precepts the way the apostles did, by what the prophets wrote aforetime. The prophets left everything you need. So that's why most will never get it. Okay, but let's slow it down. All right. If let's just take your logic. If that's the case, why do we need reapers to sort out believers in Jesus from those who don't believe? Why do you need reapers for that? Why do we need angels at harvest to identify them? A believer can spot a devilish lifestyle from a mile away. A Satanist isn't hiding. A non believer isn't camouflage. That's not a mystery, that's just discernment. But a tare is deceptive. It grows up looking like wheat, sounding like wheat, and sometimes even teaching like wheat. But it was never wheat because it was never sown by the Son of Man. It was planted by an enemy, a different bloodline, a foreign genetic stock, a seed the Most High never claimed. And contrary to your belief system, the Most High didn't claim everyone. And here's where it gets even heavier. If you read Yahawah's words and change the context, if you take the children of the kingdom and make that about Gentile believers 2,000 years later, 2 millennia later from that time span, you just made unlocking the parable 100 times harder. Because he was not speaking in code about a future multi-ethnic church. He was talking in his time directly to Israelites, standing in that city, living underneath Roman occupation and subjugation, caught in disobedience, dealing with wolves in sheep's clothing and wolves in wolves' clothing, facing a coming fire that would burn until the harvest. The wheat, that's the righteous among them. The tares, foreign infiltrators, children of the wicked one, sown to blend in, sown in to deceive, and to grow amongst the Israelites until the separation of time. The Greek word for world indicates that it's an end of an age, not necessarily the destruction of the earth, because the earth abided forever. That's Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 4. So again, he didn't say those who act wicked or those who just believe wrong. He said children of the wicked one. That's lineage, that's seed line, that's inheritance. And when the harvest comes, there will be no confusion. The reapers know the difference. And even if the tares themselves didn't know the difference, the blade is still coming down and they don't miss. And that means some people walking this earth were never meant for the kingdom. They were planted by the enemy, not influenced, planted. They weren't tricked into darkness, they were born into it. Their root wasn't righteous. Their nature wasn't upright. And this planting wasn't random. It was a strategic infiltration. The enemy knew where to sow them, right among us. And don't think they're going to look like monsters either. Yahawah said, let the wheat and the tares grow together. Because on the surface, they look the same. That's the caveat. Tares and wheat literally resemble each other in the field. Look it up, Google it. But they have different seeds. They're not the same. And don't get it twisted, we're not just talking about some mainstream Christianity, prosperity preachers, or Sunday pew sitters. We're not just talking about secular crowds, agnostics, or those in Islam. The deception runs deeper than that. The tares, some of them may have fringes on. Some may cry out Shalom with you in camp. Some wear head wraps and keep Sabbaths and recite precepts on cue. But righteousness isn't cosplay, and holiness ain't a costume. If the Most High did not plant you, beards and fringes won't save you. You'll look like wheat, speak like wheat, but when the angels pull the veil back, you will burn. You will burn like the tares that you are. Because Satan didn't just plant his seed just in churches. He planted them among all the righteous. That's what makes this so dangerous. Deception could be standing right next to you, even walking with you. But make no mistake, wherever Jake is, Esau is there. Maybe not in mass, but enough to sow dysfunction. And this is why Yahawah said, let them both grow together. Because even in the awakening, the line isn't always visible to the naked eye. And you can't determine the root just because someone claims to know their nationality. That's why this ain't a service level warning. It is a spiritual level separation. The Most High is not checking garments. He's checking your fruit and searching the reins. And yes, this parable is layered. The seed of the wicked one isn't just metaphorical. It ties into actual lineages. But we're going to build into that next. For now, just understand this. Judgment was already written. And the highest said he would not repent of it. And some of these tares, knowing this, are cleaving, believing they can circumvent the wrath to come. But the Lord don't miss. It gets deep. Not everyone claiming the kingdom is truly of it. And not everyone walking with you is destined to endure. That's why Paul said in Romans chapter 9, verse 6, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. That means the wheat isn't only identified by a tribal claim. It is known by a divine planting. A remnant means a portion of what was first selected. The wheat is the good seed. Satan didn't just send deception, he planted a bloodline, an actual seed in the world to mimic, mirror, and masquerade as the wheat. But let's pause and unpack for a bit. During the Greek captivity, the priesthood was in total disarray. The Gentiles were in rule and had no allegiance with the Israelites, totally disrespecting the covenant. Let's back that up. This is the book of 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verses 1 through 6, just to hammer the point. And it reads, not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from their laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of God. These are Greeks. It said a king sent an old man of Athens. Verse 2, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius. So they wanted them to rename the temple in Jerusalem after some idol. And that in Gerizim, which is a mountain, of Jupiter, of the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. And coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful. The altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. So that happened during the Greek Empire, shortly before we have the accounts of what went on in the Greco-Roman Empire in the New Testament. This part was removed from the Bible, and this was done by the Greeks. So I've said 100 times that Greeks were not checking for Yahawah. They were not trying to assimilate. These are not the Greeks Paul was writing to. Let's unpack. Now, during this time, there would be a war called the Maccabean Revolt, where the children of Israel will finally have enough of these oppressors and to look to overthrow them and try to get some sort of sovereignty from this perpetual captivity they've been facing time after time after time. The son of Simon Maccabeus of the Hasmoneans, these are Israelites, Levites, they rose up to claim victory for the Jews against the Seleucid Empire, the Greeks, their enemies. Even when you go to a first century account, historian Josephus highlights John Hyrcanus, the son of Simon, that's Simon Maccabeus, he would expand their territory after they would claim victory against their oppressors, and they forced Idumean conversions. Those who are in the know understand that Idumeans is just another way to say Edomites, or Greek way to say the Edomites. It's just another name that they took on. You can find this account in the Josephus in the Antiquities 13.9.1. And it reads, Hyrcanus also took Dora and Marissa, cities of Idumea, and subdued all the Idumeans, subdued all the inhabitants, and permitted them to stay in the lands of their forefathers only if they would circumcise their genitals and make use of the laws of the Jews. They would eventually become Judaized, right? This marked a very pivotal moment, ladies and gentlemen. Hyrcanus, though he was a deliverer in terms of the revolt, he crossed a very dangerous line. He expanded their empire. However, he forcibly grafted in what the Most High had already cut off, the Edomites. Circumcision was the token of Israel's covenant with the Most High, but it was never meant to be used as a political tool. This was not a righteous conversion. This was assimilation under duress. And what followed? A bloodline that was slithered into power, cloaked in the guise of Israel customs, but never bearing the covenantal spark. So when you read Antiquities chapter 14.1.3 and 8 and 1, you read about the coming of Antipater, the Idumean. Antipater, like I said, an Idumean and Edomite, became the chief advisor for Hyrcanus II, but he also was a power broker under Rome. His father, Antipater's father, was an Idumean convert. He converted into the ways and customs of the Jews, and Antipater being a descendant of those who were under forceful conversion during the time of John Hyrcanus. Another Edomite joining into the custom of a people who the Lord did not even want to have dealings with them. Antipater uses political alliances to maneuver his family into control over Judea, and then Rome appoints him as a procurator over Judea. Now is when the tares begin to sprout. Antipater, born of forced conversion, should have never had a place among their governance. Yet through backdoor diplomacy and Roman favor, he inserts himself behind the high priest, who was John Hyrcanus, and Simon Maccabeus, whispering in their ears of weakened leaders. And this is the beginning of sowing of the tares Yahawah warned of. Not just theological differences, but a rival bloodline gaining roots. The priesthood was supposed to be holy, but now it's politically entangled. So what will come of Antipater's roots? Herod the Great. Rome appointed Herod, an Edomite, the son of Antipater, the king of Judea, in 37 BCE. What's wrong with this picture? This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee which is not thy brother. That's what's wrong with this picture. According to the law of God, Israelites are not supposed to have anybody as king over them in the Holy Lands that is not one of their own. The tares were being sown. Herod is not an Israelite. He's an Idumean. So what is the fruit of his stock, of his lineage, of his efforts as king. He slaughters the Hasmonean line. He marries a Hasmonean princess to legitimize his throne. So he marries into the Israelites and assimilates, if that's what you want to call it, under the laws of God. He kills the priest and begins to replace the high priest with his own appointees. Right? What's wrong with that picture? This is the book of Numbers, chapter 3, and we'll go to verse 10. And it says, "And thou shalt appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priest office, and the strangers that come nigh shall be put to death." So, unto Aaron and his sons are wholly given the office of the priesthood. Herod, an Idumean, wasn't checking to see if you were of the line of Aaron. He was appointing his own priest. Now, what does he do? He does help in rebuilding the temple, but it's only politically motivated and spiritually corrupted. So here it is, the final fruit of that Idumean infiltration. Herod the Great, the seed of Esau, placed over Jacob. Rome didn't just permit this, they orchestrated it. This is the beast that you read in Daniel, crowning an Edomite to mimic the throne of David. Herod marries into the Hasmonean line to legitimize himself, but it's a lie. And he kills the last true priest kings. He rebuilds the temple, but it's a political theater, a temple of compromise, not sanctuary of Yahawah. Now that the seed of Esau is sitting on the throne and wears the title King of the Jews and rules over Jacob's descendant with all of Rome's blessing, everything they fought to regain was taken, which is why even in their heroics, it ended in an inevitable decay. But wait, how did it get this bad? I'll explain. The priesthood was already compromised before Herod. The Hasmonean family, Hyrcanus, Simon Maccabeus, and their stock, they were Levites, yes, but they were from the line of Joiarib. Now, granted, Joiarib's lineage, which was one of the 24 courses that were set up by David, and they do go back to Eleazar, so they are of Aaron's stock. But the Most High at that time elected that Zadok would become the high priest, and the high priesthood would go through his line. So when Maccabeus and John Hyrcanus took the high priesthood after the revolt, it wasn't according to the Most High's word. It was according to a military victory and a political acclaim. They weren't placed there by God. They placed themselves there. And this marked a functional break from the divine order of the priesthood. But that alone didn't authorize them to function as high priest according to the Torah's strict order. They didn't restore the Zadokite line, but they also themselves became kings and priests together. So they begin to blend the two roles that were never meant to be combined. The high priest was supposed to be the spiritual head, and the kings were supposed to come from Judah. Here's the deeper corruption. The Hasmoneans didn't just fight the Gentiles, they blurred the divine separation of office. With their new roles as priests and kings, they inherited a role that was never theirs. That role was reserved for Yahawah alone, the one prophesied to be both priest and king after the order of Melchizedek, that's Psalms 110 and 4. Also, it says, "I have set my king on my holy hill." So the distinction as a priest and a king could only come through Yahawah, not after Aaron, not after Levi. This wasn't restoration. This wasn't overreach. And Yahawah already warned us what would happen when kings try to play priest. Remember King Uzziah? 2 Chronicles chapter 26. He stepped into a priest role and burned incense, and Yahawah struck him with leprosy. Now we have the reverse. Priest stepping into kingship. No prophet anointed it. No covenant confirmed it. It was power, not prophecy. So the line of Zadok was bypassed. The promises given through the sons of Aaron, the legitimate set-apart order, which was further extended through the line of Zadok, was overthrown. And all this paved the way for Herod, an Edomite, to rise on a stolen throne and a hijacked priesthood. This was not restoration. This was a masquerade. And this single-handedly opened the door to total compromise. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 44, verse 15. And it reads, "But the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, that kept the charge of my sanctuary when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me and minister unto me." It was already set in stone. What David did, and then further continued through the kingship of King Solomon. The Zadokites, through the line of Zadok, were supposed to assume the role of the high priest. The Most High did not say anyone else. Zadok's line was chosen by oath and favor because they remained faithful during an apostasy. You can check that out in 1 Kings chapter 1 and 8, 1 Chronicles chapter 6, believe verses 4 through 8. Now, granted, like I said before, Hyrcanus and Simon Maccabeus, they go back to Eleazar. So they were of a priestly stock, but the Most High changed it and made it more narrow, just like a person of the line of Judah is of a king stock, but the Most High changed that and narrowed it down to David. So it wasn't just about the forefather, it was about faithfulness in a crisis. So when you fast forward to the time of Yahawah, he is confronting the religious leadership at the time, the Pharisees, chief priests, and scribes. And he would, in John chapter 8, verse 44, say something so paramount. He said, "Ye are of your father the devil." He wasn't speaking to pagans, ladies and gentlemen. He was looking directly at leaders, priests, and elders, many of whom were installed under the Herodian authority. Not all of them were elected by the Herodian authority. Some of them were actually Jews, but some wore tares. They wore the garments of Torah. They bore the spirit and the seed of rebellion of Esau. The wheat are known by a divine planting. Pharisees like Saul, which later his name became Paul. He is of that ilk. He is wheat. He wasn't against Yahawah. He wasn't against the divineness that the Most High installed. And Yahawah himself wasn't against every Pharisee, obviously. But the tares were planted too, but by another father. But the wheat are the seeds of the righteous, guaranteed, the children of the kingdom. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 61, verses 3. And it says, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they may be called the trees of righteousness and the planting of the Lord the highest, that he may be glorified. Only what he plants will stand. Everything else is fuel for the fire. So let me add some precepts for this to kind of hammer the point that all this in symbology was already written aforetime, as Christ knew. This is the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 9, verse 17 through 22. And it says, "And he answered me, saying, like as the field is, so is also the seed. As the flowers be, such are the colors also. Such as the workman is, and such also is the work. And as the husband is himself, so is his husbandry also. For it was the time of the world. And now, when I prepared the world which was not yet made, even for them to dwell in that now live, no man spake against me. For then everyone obeyed. But now the manners of them which are created in this world that is made are corrupted by a perpetual seed, and by a law which is unsearchable rid themselves. So they don't want to obey the laws of God. So I considered the world, and behold, there was peril because of the devices that were come into it. And I saw, and I spared it greatly, and have kept me a grape of the cluster, and a plant of a great people. Let the multitude perish therein, which was born in vain, and let my grape be kept, and my plant, for with great labor have I made it perfect. Make no mistake about it, this is a parable. The Lord's judgments are already written. That's why Christians will never get it, because they've convinced themselves they can muzzle the Lord's word and just run to Paul. Not everyone was made for the glory. Not everyone was made to inherit the kingdom. Some of you were born just to be burned. I'm not saying this to offend you. I'm saying it because it's true. But understand this. There are tares walking around that don't even know that they are tares. They've grown up in the midst of the wheat. They've adopted the customs. They've memorized the language. But at harvest time, they're getting bundled up and cast into the fire. So when Yahawah says in Matthew chapter 13, verse 30, let them both grow together until the harvest. And trust me, that harvest is coming. And the reapers, they're not preachers, they're not bishops, they're angels. And they're not coming with hugs and holy water. And they don't miss. And they're coming with fire and judgment. And when they start gathering, there will be no time left to switch sides. So when you pick up at verse 39 of Matthew chapter 13, it says, the enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. It didn't say unless they believe on Jesus. This is preordination right in front of your face, not free will. This is their lot. So I ask again, who planted you? Because just like the parable says, not all who look like wheat are wheat, right? All right, 2 seeds and 1 field. Let's be clear, the tares are not just some wicked people. They're not some backsliding Israelites. They're not even the 2/3 in the world or in Christianity or Islam or living in rebellion. No, tares are another seed entirely, planted not by men, not by accident, but planted by the devil himself. Verses 38 and 39 said, the field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. So let that sink in. Now, when we talk about the 2/3 of the Israelites, sure, they're rebellious children. Yes. Caught in sin. Yes. Refuse to repent. Absolutely. But the children of the kingdom, they still are. They're still wheat by blood, even if they're corrupted. But the tares, they were never wheat to begin with. They were never the Israelites. They never look like us. They act like us. They may even cry when they hear the scriptures, but they were planted to deceive. This is not just about wolves in sheep's clothing. This is about Esau's physical seed walking amongst us. Jeremiah chapter 49 says, "Behold, I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret place." But we're not just talking about obvious Edomites, but the hidden ones who entered in through the wombs of Israelite women, scattered through every tribe. Yes, I said it. We're not just dealing with agents and sellouts. We're dealing with tares even in the camp. Children of the wicked one, hiding in brown skin, fringes, and soft speech. This is Matthew chapter 15, verse 13, and it says, "Every plant which my heavenly Father had not planted shall be rooted up." This is the book of Hebrews chapter 12, verses 16 and 17. Roughly paraphrasing, it says, "When he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears." He was rejected, people, and from that time he has never ceased but to be a pure enemy to the Israelites. He wept, but it did not matter because the blessing was never his. It was never about performance, it was about bloodline. These tares weren't just planted to exist, they were planted to test, to infiltrate, to blend in, to tempt the wheat, and to shake the camp. This is the book of Malachi chapter 1, verse 4. It says, "They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever." Indignation is a righteous hatred. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 34, verse 5, and it says, "For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, upon the people of my curse to judgment." Now just think about that. The people of the Lord's curse to judgment. When you read the book of Romans chapter 9, verse 13, it says, "As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated." Make no mistake about how the Lord feels about this seed who is appointed for the sword. Esau is the tare who looked like a brother, the greatest tare ever sown. He came from the same womb. He looked like kin. He knew the birthright and despised it. He sold the inheritance for a meal, married into cursed nations, and built an entire kingdom in opposition to the Most High. This is the book of Obadiah chapter 1, verse 18, and it says, "And there shall be none remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it, and the Lord meant it." Esau was not just rebellious, he was rejected, and that rejection turned into rage, and that rage turned into rule, and he hunted the seed and has not stopped since. So, going back to Herod, Israel's under Roman occupation, and who's on the throne of Judah? Herod the Great, Idumean, son of Esau, claiming David's throne, trying to kill the true king before he could even walk. And as in Deuteronomy chapter 17 and 15 says, "You are not supposed to have anybody on that throne unless it's one of your brethren." Herod is not of the brethren. He was a tare, a murderer of innocents, a deceiver in David's city. And today, that same spirit sits on high, in banks, in pulpits, in courts, even in the land, the Holy Land. So, what is the tare's end? The tare's end, you thought hellfire was a metaphor. No, this is real fire. Physical, prophetic fire set aside for specific people. As Matthew chapter 13, verse 40 said, "The tares are gathered and burned in the fire." Malachi chapter 4:1 says, Behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud shall be stubble. Of course, 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 10 said, The elements shall melt with fervent heat. Book of Zechariah chapter 14 verse 12 says, And their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. This isn't about eternal burning underground. This is about judgment from above on Esau, on Edom, on the tares. So Esau didn't just run off from the time of the Roman Empire. He stayed. He embedded himself. He wore Jacob's skin. He built religion, education, finance, and doctrine on lies. He took the Torah. He took the language. He took the land. He even tried to take the people. He says he's the chosen now. He has dominion on the earth, but the reapers are coming, and DNA doesn't lie to the Most High. And the angels don't miss. That fire is not coming from below. It's all been preordained, thermal, nuclear. You wonder how it got here? You wonder why it's being used all over the earth to subdue and destroy? And why it's in the hands of the greatest destroyers this earth has ever seen? It's all prophetic. You guys decided to ignore the prophecies for 2 millennia. But everything that the Lord the Highest wrote, everything that he spoke to his prophets is not coming back void, no matter how much you hoop and holler inside of what you deem a church. It doesn't matter what you think or what you believe. The Lord's word does not come back void. And now you're getting a hint of what this is going to look like. This is Isaiah chapter 54 verse 16, and it says, Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. I have created the waster to destroy the waster. This is the moment where these major weapons were formed on the earth to the liking of the power himself. This is the fire that will extinguish the tares. O Esau, deceiver in the field, you thought you could inherit what you sowed. You covered yourself in Jacob's skin, but your hands were red. You sat on David's throne, but it was never yours. You hunted the seed. You ruled in deceit. You claimed to be chosen, but the flame knows the truth. Your towers will fall. Your systems will burn. Your name will be wiped. And Jacob will rise, not by sword, but by promise. Not by politics, but by prophecy. Not by might, but by the word that never fails. So, were you planted by the Son of Man or sown by the enemy while men slept? Because not all who look like wheat are wheat, and not all who talk like family carry the bloodline. Make no mistake about it, Esau has been sowing his seed into the womb of Israelite women on the 4 corners of the earth. And it may be one standing right next to you, whether you're in the truth or not in the truth. But the harvest will tell the truth. In that day, no tear, no crying, no tears, no languages, no testimony will save that which was never chosen. Esau, you are the tear, and the fire is meant for you. Now, some ask about the 2/3. The 2/3 will be gathered, and unfortunately will have to suffer the same fate. So, if they die in rebellion, are they lost forever? No. They do have hope. They do have hope. They do have hope. I'm not here to add to the Father's word. I'm only here to examine what is written. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 8 and 9. It says, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. That is judgment. That's death. No doubt about it. But hear this well. The scripture never refers to the 2/3 as tares. Never did it say they were of a different seed. They are still called my people. The 2/3 are still from the same royal stock of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's why the 2/3 can never be called tares. They're just disobedient, stiff-necked, and hard-headed, backsliding Israelites. But they're still children of the kingdom. This is the book of John, chapter 15, verses 1 and 2, and it says, this is Yahawah saying, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. A branch in Yahawah isn't a different plant. It's part of the same vine. It just failed to bear fruit. But a tare is something entirely different. It looks similar. It grows alongside the wheat, but it's not wheat. It's a foreign plant sown by an enemy. Again, Matthew chapter 13, verse 38 said, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are children of the wicked one. Notice what Yahawah is saying. He did not say tares were the bad seed from the same plant. He said they are children of the wicked one. That's a whole different bloodline, a whole different spiritual origin. Here's the point. If the 2/3 were tares, that would imply that the Most High made a covenant with the devil, that he chose a wicked lineage to receive promises, which would make Yahawah a liar. But he didn't. He made a covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, righteous men. And even though the 2/3 are rebellious, stiff-necked, and act wickedly, they're still children of the kingdom, still of the covenant, still of the promised seed. They're not tares, they're wayward branches. And branches can be broken off, yes, but not because they're imposters, but because they didn't bear fruit. On the other hand, the tares, those that crept in unawares, some of them may even be wearing fringes. Some of them may be calling on Yahawah Bahashem Yahawah, breaking bread and teaching precepts. But they were never meant to inherit the kingdom. They are not branches of the vine. They are not of the root. They were planted by the enemy. Esau, the heathen nations, the strangers in disguise, different genetic stock, different spirit, same look, but not the same root. All Israel shall be saved. And that is what's written. And that's what people need to understand when it comes to the 2/3. Now, we did read in Zechariah that the 2/3 would be cut off and die. So how can all Israel be saved? The answer is regeneration. Not reincarnation like heathens teach, but restoration through the elect. A righteous remnant that survives the fire and becomes the foundation for a new kingdom. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 6. I'm going to start at 11. And it says, Then said I, Lord, how long? And he answered, Until the cities be wasted, without an inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. And the Lord have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. But yet in it shall be a tent, and it shall return, and it shall be eaten, as a teil tree, and as an oak whose substance is in them. And when they cast their leaves, so is the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. So that stump, that tent, that remnant, that holy seed is not destroyed, it is refined. It gets to become the root of a restored nation. Even in Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 37 and 38 says, I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will purge among you the rebels, and they shall not enter into the land. See? You see that? The rebels get purged, but the covenant stays intact. The holy seed is there, still planted, that stump, that remnant, it becomes the root of a righteous kingdom. And from their loins, the Israelites get restored. A new righteous nation is born. So when you read Jeremiah 30, verse 18, it says, "Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring again the captivity of Jacob's tents, and have mercy on his dwelling places. And the city shall be builded upon her own heap, and the palace shall remain after the manner thereof." Check this out. "Out of them shall proceed thanksgiving, and the voice of them that make merry. And I will multiply them," that's reproducing, "in the kingdom. And they shall not be few. I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small." The restoring of a kingdom through the loins of the elect. That's how they are not out of this for good. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 60, verse 19. It says, "The sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy God thy glory." So this is kingdom connotation. The Lord is going to dwell with them in the kingdom. Verse 20, "Thy sun shall no more go down, neither shall thy moon withdraw itself. For the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. Thy people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified." And here's the point. "A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. And I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time. Let me say it plain. The 2/3 are judged, but they are not Esau. They are not tares. They are children of the kingdom, just disobedient, wicked as hell, still Jacob's seed, still children of Abraham, and the highest made Abraham a promise. They will not escape the fire because of their fruit or lack thereof, but through the mercy of Yahawah Bahashem, for his name's sake, they will return through the loins of the elect." One more precept. This is Isaiah chapter 49, verse 19, and it reads, "For thy waste and thy desolate places, and the land of thy destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants, and they that swallowed thee up shall be far away. The children," that means reproduction, "in the kingdom. The children which thou shalt have after thou hast lost the other," the 2/3, "shall say again in thine ears, This place is too strait for me. Give place to me that I may dwell." You see that? So the lost ones, the ones you lost, the 2/3 who didn't make it, it won't be the end of their story. Yahawah said you'll have children after the judgment, and there will be so many of them that the land won't even feel big enough. The remnant becomes the root, and from that holy seed, a multitude will spring forth, not just restored, multiplied. That's not metaphor, that's prophecy. And before I conclude, I will address the usual retort by Christians who have a lack of understanding of the biblical text when it pertains to Esau. They'll quote Deuteronomy 23, verse 7, "Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother." They wave this like it's a peace treaty, claiming it as some divine restriction against judging Esau. Shielded up like a bulletproof vest. All right. When this was spoken, the full scale of Edom's wickedness had not been revealed. This is the law. So this is before the judges. This is before the kings. This is before the prophets. The only prophet at this time is Moses. All right. The prophecy against Edom and their perpetual hatred and their role in the Israelites' downfall came centuries after rebellion and betrayal. All right, so you cannot use a civil statute to override divine judgment. When this was written, this was not the Father saying Esau is now good in my eyes. This is him saying simply don't mistreat an Edomite unfairly because of who he is. That's courtroom justice. That's not covenant endorsement. Because when the Most High does judge Esau, he doesn't do it quietly. He makes it thunder from the prophets. The book of Obadiah chapter 1 verse 10 says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. Thou shalt be cut off forever." We didn't write that. How do you have an objection when the Most High revealed that to his prophets? So when you read the books of the prophets and you see the Most High issue a judgment that's set in stone, if you really are a worshiper of God, you have to be good with it, regardless of how it makes you feel. Because if you're not good with the Most High's judgment, you will be a part of the Most High's judgments. For the Lord loves his judgments. So this is not a sibling reconciliation simply because he had a provision in the Lord's law. He had a chance. Okay? It gets deep. So when you get to like Ezekiel 35 verse 5, it says, "Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred." So it was enough rope for him to hang himself, which he most certainly did. You don't get blanket forgiveness when it comes to the Most High God. Once he issues your judgment, it's set in stone. All right? So in the time of Moses, the Edomites had not fully revealed their enmity to the extent seen later in the scriptures. So even though there was tension, like when you read the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verses 14 through 21, there was tension there even during this time. It had not evolved into the perpetual hatred that Ezekiel described. All right, this command not to abhor Edomite was given before Edom blocked Israel's passage in that chapter. The Edomites celebrated and helped Babylon destroy Jerusalem during the time of Babylon. In fact, King Darius made them give over the confiscated land and territories that they took when Babylon seized the Israelites. It's just been a perpetual hatred. All right. And long before Edom tried to erase the identity of the Israelites and rule in their place, that happened way before even Herod stepped on the scene. All right. "For he is thy brother" is a historical statement. It's not a license. Yes, Edom is Jacob's brother by blood, but so was Cain to Abel. And that biological link didn't stop judgment from coming when the spiritual enmity was revealed. All right. That's why when you read Obadiah, you have understanding. You don't just run right back to Deuteronomy 23:7 looking for a way to love. A false balance is an abomination unto the Lord thy God. And brotherhood is no shield. It became no shield for Esau when he chose violence, betrayal, and identity theft. All right. So when you read like Deuteronomy 25:17, it says, "Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way when you were coming forth out of Egypt. Moving forward, thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it." Who is Amalek? The chief house of Esau, the head of the Edomite nations. Numbers 24:20, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. So how do you get around all these prophecies and all these decrees that the Lord is issuing out? Is because you don't care when the Lord talks. All you care about is reading what Paul says and eating pork chops. You don't really care about what God says because you want to muzzle God. You want to make Paul your God and put Paul on the throne. And that's why you're probably a 2/3, because you don't tremble at the Lord the highest. So I don't know how you can possibly think you're saved or the Messiah is going to save you from the wrath of his Father. That's crazy work. And that's why pastors have come in what they have come in, because they instill this indoctrination in you, teaching the doctrines of tares, the doctrines of devils. Is it starting to make sense? All right. So in Hebrew, the word abhor, it means a deep loathing or revulsion, almost like a recompense without an action that justifies it. So this was a legal command not to mistreat individuals prematurely. In fact, they will be able to come and offer sacrifices after a certain amount of time. But this was before the full judgment of Edom's treachery came to the light. Right? When you read Psalms 137, it begins to make sense how they continuously sided with other heathen nations when it came to taking down the Israelites. Why? Because of that blessing that stemmed from their forefathers when those two nations were warring in the womb. This is what it's all about, and it hasn't stopped. All right. So Deuteronomy 23:7 is not a get out of judgment card. When you weigh it against prophecy, history, and judicial wrath, the argument crumbles. All right. The initial tolerance was never an eternal pardon. Get it through your mind. It was almost like it was a probationary period, and Edom failed it. And now they face the consequences, foretold, earned, and sealed. Get it in your mind, because you're going to have to deal with that. Judgment from the Lord the highest. Okay? So, in conclusion, brothers and sisters, we've walked through these scriptures. We stepped into the terrifying and righteous reality of the reaping. We've seen with clarity that the Most High has drawn a hard line, a separation between his people and those who are not his. We saw Esau's seed marked for destruction. We saw the rebellious of Israel destined to be purged in the fire. We also saw the remnant, that righteous elect, preserved to inherit the kingdom. But let's be honest, this understanding carries weight. It's heavy. It's not surface level doctrine. And truthfully, none of us are ready for the full terror of Yahawah's judgment. We haven't seen it with our eyes. We can read it, we can teach it, we can warn about it, but to witness it, that's another thing altogether. Because his judgment isn't natural. No one's accustomed to seeing death at such a high magnitude, because it's not natural. It's supernatural, not of this earth. And with that said, I must humbly acknowledge something. Everything shared in this lesson is based on my understanding, shaped by prophecy, forged through precepts, and delivered with fear and trembling. But the final verdict, that belongs to Yahawah Bahashem Yahawah, the Father and his glorious Son. As much as we study, as much as we rightly divide the word, we are not the judge. We are messengers. Some of us are the real watchmen. We are all servants, and definitely we're all brothers. Our job is to obey his commandments, to walk in the Spirit, to teach sound doctrine, and to sound the alarm when the danger is near. Now, don't get me wrong, this breakdown is not casual. It's definitely not guesswork. It's not something I just threw together. It's been crafted through the years of seeking, hours of cross-referencing, and a heart that truly fears the Most High, checking and double-checking, precept upon precept, line upon line. And when you filter the word through the law, psalms, and prophets, the understanding becomes clear. The evidence is staggering. It begins to testify on its own. But even with all that said, I confess I still fall short in some areas, because the word is deep, deeper than any man. The mysteries are vast, broader than the earth itself. And the Spirit, he moves as he wills. Not always where we expect, but always where he's needed. And that's why we stay humble, we stay teachable, and that's why we keep our fear of Yahawah intact. Because without it, we're just vessels without oil. That's why we must all remain students of the book, searching the scriptures daily, testing every spirit. Because we're not out here to be right. We're out here to be righteous. What is set in stone is this: Yahawah's judgment is certain, his kingdom will come, and it will be inherited by those who are his, the seed of Jacob, the elect of Israel. His judgment can't be undone, his hand can't be stayed, and when the time comes, the reaping will be swift. Because Yahawah don't miss. The separation will be final, and the wicked will be rooted out, and the righteous, they shall inherit the earth. Don't lose heart, family, because judgment does begin at the Lord's house first. But so does redemption. And the same one who wounds is the same one who heals, the same one who scatters, the same one who has scattered repeatedly will also gather. And when that gathering comes, when Zion is restored and the throne of David is reestablished, there will be no more oppression, there will be no more tears, and no more death. Just peace, righteousness, and everlasting kingdom of Yahawah, ruled by his son Yahawah, filled with the holy people purified by fire. So I leave you with this: fear God, keep his commandments, for that is the whole duty of man. I say shalom, stay watchful, stay obedient, and stay grounded. And I hope you are edified. And with that, I give all honor, praises, and glory unto the Father, who is the highest. And shalom.